I'm from Philly, and I'm a big Phyllis Hyman fan. Did you meet Phyllis Hyman
Oh,
on the set of School Days?
I adored Phyllis Hyman and still do to this day. I sure did. She was very, very special to me. Phyllis had the most incredible depth of essence and beauty. She was a queen. She was an
Wow.
absolute queen. Loved
Do
her
you have a
dearly.
story about an interaction with her or anything?
You know, she no, I would cry if I
Oh,
told a
okay.
story about Phyllis. I feel like I got so close to her at one point in time.
Oh, wow.
In
Wow.
our conversation, she was always a little bit guarded. But she hugged me one day, and I could feel her heart and soul, and I
Wow.
just went, "Oh my goodness, what a powerful human being."
Wow. I want to go through some key moments in your career I want to ask you about. You were in Go Tell It on the Mountain in 1985. This is 2 years before James Baldwin passed away. Did you meet James Baldwin?
I did meet
Oh my gosh.
James Baldwin, a very special man, and what an author, and what a very complete human being. In many ways, the correlation between he and Spike Lee was that James did things the way he wanted to. I was honored to play that role of Elijah and Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's one of my proudest moments in film. Um, Stan directed it. He was an incredible director. And I remember after doing that film, I had the possibility of being able to be in Amen Corner. And so I went to see Amen Corner, another James Baldwin piece. I had the opportunity to take over for someone. And I went to the audience, and he looked at me, and I was seeing the show, so he was seeing it that night. He said, "Sit down next to me. Just sit down over here next to me." And we had a very brief conversation. You're really good in that. Go Tell It on the Mountain. I said, "Well, thank you." And with James, you never knew. He was so smooth and so intellectually sharp, and he had a way of complimenting you that you just never knew what his seduction was. Like he would seduce your brain into new ideas. He would seduce your whole being because he had this deep voice, and he had a very smooth and silky way of speaking. He admired what I did, and I certainly loved what he did. I think his work during the civil rights movement, there's the correlations that I feel like connect up with Spike Lee, who doesn't separate his life from his life's work, to uplift and acknowledge people who have not been acknowledged the way they deserve to be.
I've never talked to somebody who met James Baldwin, so thank you for this gift. He's a big, big influence on me. Thank you. Okay, in that same year, you were in Desperately Seeking Susan, Madonna. She wasn't a big superstar at that point. When you met her, could you tell this woman is going to be something? Could you see the light, or was she just grinding and in the hustle? Could you tell this is going to be somebody super big?
Yeah, well, when you meet people who are really comfortable in their own skin, and they're not afraid to just be themselves, that's who Madonna was then. Like we literally shared a trailer, a Winnebago, because this movie, Susan Seidelman directed it. It was an independent film. This movie didn't have a lot of money, and I came in as basically a guest player. So there was an accordion door between the doors of this particular little small rented beat up Winnebago, and I remember always like it was always a little bit cracked. So I'm trying to look and go, wow, because she's just so beautiful and so so energetic. And I remember trying to peek through that accordion door, and one day I kind of peeked through the accordion door and I saw an eyeball, and she was peeking through too.
Oh,
And I was like, oh yes. Then I knew her as Louise. I knew she was going. She's someone who, to this day, has her own style, her own way of thinking that she's committed to, and she has just an incredible talent to write and sing songs that become just the popular iconic hits.
wait, well, hold up. Did she ever try and holler? Because you're her type. Like you were totally her type. Did she ever holler?
Oh man. Yeah, she hollered. She hollered. I mean, yeah, I had given her my number, and I remember I got a phone call really late at night, and uh, and I was like, "Who is this?" And she's like, "It's me. It's Madonna." Yeah, we had I adore her to this day, but I had gotten married, and I got off the phone, and I think the woman I was dating, who became my wife, was like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "Louise." Louise who? I was like, "Madonna." She was like, "What?" You know what time it
Oh.
is?
Oh my.
I feel honored and blessed that I would be hollering for her, because Madonna just has and still has it. You see the way she looks?
Oh,
She's a beautiful, incredibly graceful woman to this day.
uh, she could have been Madonna Esposito. You never
Well,
know.
she's the one who told me to drop the Esposito.
I remember I heard that. Just go by your first
She
name.
said,
Yeah,
"Why don't you
yeah,
just go Giancarlo, like
yeah.
Madonna?" So
Yeah.
Madonna, as I would say in Italian, Madonna and Giancarlo. It'd kind of be
Uh,
cool.
so just one more. So you're in Waiting to Exhale. And what's interesting is that you play a gay character that's it's really ahead of its time. Really ahead of its time. Shout out to Terry McMillan and all that good stuff. But I got to ask you, what memories do you have of Whitney Houston?
Oh my goodness, I have several different occasions I met Whitney. On that particular movie, I was in and out and saw her briefly, Angela and Whitney. She was vivacious and very curious, and I believe was a movie star. I got to be really honest with
Wow.
you. Had she given it some time and given it all of her attention, that to me, she was going to be the next huge um, black African American movie star. She had the
Mm.
beauty, she had the grace, she had the personality, uh, and so I loved working with Loretta Devine. I don't know if your viewers or your folks, your listeners, know that Forrest Whitaker directed that movie.
Yes, he
It
did.
was his directorial debut. Years later, I was doing a show called Don't Get God Started with someone who I really adore, BB Winans.
Oh
BB and
yes.
CC Winans were a team then, and BB was after the show one night. Said, "I'm going to a recording studio." I said, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" "I may just sit in on this track with Whitney. Come with me." And we went over to a recording studio in Midtown after our show on Broadway, and got in the elevator. And who follows us in the elevator almost on our heels is Whitney Houston, and no entourage, no nothing, no makeup, just in her boots and her jeans and her leather jacket, and BB said, "Giancarlo, this is Whitney. Whitney, this is Giancarlo. Hi, how are you?" And she was focused. She didn't give me the time of day, and I call myself a ladies' man, and I'm trying to get her attention, because I'm just like, this woman is beautiful, but also there's something very profound about her spirituality that was inside. And BB, the Winans family is steeped in God, and so I used to go to church with them when I was doing the show, and so we went in and listened to her record. And BB did a little piece for her, and we were in and out. So I have fond memories of her, and I miss her, because I feel like her voice gave us such something to hold on to. Some excitement, some spirit, some elegance, and too soon gone, but fulfilled her time here on this earth.
Last thing, I just found out preparing for this interview. I thought that you were black and Latin. I just found out. This whole time I thought that you were, but you're actually you have an Italian parent and a black parent. I thought that you were like Afro Latino. I thought this for a year. I just figured this out today. I said, "Oh, because you played a lot of Latin characters. I,
I
I really
do,
thought
and
you were Afro Latino."
there's a reason for that. Because when I made a shift from playing, all the crooks, killers, robbers, and you know, uh, desperate characters that I played that were labeled African American, I needed somewhere to go. And the only transition for me was to start to play Latino characters, because you saw more of them. So I was
Mm,
resourceful. I went, if I can't,
wow.
if I choose not to play this African American character, I need to start to ply another character that I can play. And so at that time, the Spanish characters, Latinos, were a little more acceptable in our entertainment community. So, look, my name is Giancarlo Giuseppe Alessandro Esposito. I am truly that split down the middle, raised in Rome, Born in Copenhagen, raised in Rome. My brother was born in Naples. My father was born in Naples. And I come from that cultural experience and household of an African American mother from Alabama
Mm-hmm.
who really worked hard to get herself to International House and get a scholarship to go to Alla Scala Opera House in Naples and then do a Porgy and Bess State Department tour, which were happening in the late 50s. So I come from that multicultural background, which I'm very proud of. But I just play, I play. Look, I was on Jay Leno a number of years ago and I said, you know what? I'm just, I'm an Italian posing as, an African American or an American at all, because
Mm.
really what roots me is the combination of that Italian and that soulfulness of being black.
You're a black Italian.
There
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.